Good morning and welcome to First Church Berkeley. We're delighted to have you here this morning. As you might sense, there are a few people away. This is our Camp Kaz weekend. A group of our congregation members go up to Camp Cazadero, which is up near the Russian River for the weekend. So about this time, they may be wandering their way to that little bluff with the cross outside where they do worship. So we'll worship together, those of us who are here and those of us who are up there. This morning, though, we're in for a particular treat. We are really the winners on this weekend, in my humble opinion. And of course, I arranged this because I'm often the one who's staying back in Berkeley. But we're delighted this morning to have Claudia Schmidt with us, who is a singer-songwriter. She lives in Minneapolis at the moment, but has lived in other parts of the Midwest and has performed all over the place and has created a lot of her own music, wonderful stuff. She's recorded 19 CDs, and she's got a bunch of them back on the table, so after the service you'll want to buy 2 or 6 or 12 of those. In particular, I've been listening to her most recent one, which is called New World Order. That's W-H-I-R-L-E-D, New World Order. So it's wonderful, wonderful music, and we're going to get to hear a lot of it during this morning's service. So that's going to be the treat for today. So without further ado, Claudia Schmidt.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Well, what I love to do is sing with people. That's a big thing for me. And so the first song we're going to do here, you see those words up there. I wrote this. I got back from South Africa about 9 years ago, right about now. I spent 3 weeks there and was in the middle of the singing culture there. I loved it so much. And I wrote this right after I got back, clearly influenced by being in that culture, because it's kind of a call and answer. And here's what happens: is I sing da 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 da, and you sing. Actually, you put under in front of promising sky. Under a promising sky. Try that. Under a promising. And then I go da 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 da, and then you go under a promising sky. So that's the verse part. In the chorus, I'm singing promising sky, and you're singing these words to this note. I sing promising sky, we're walking under, and I sing promising sky, and you sing lightning and thunder. Always the same notes. Promising sky, here comes the sunshine. Promising sky, it's yours and it's mine. And you're very lucky, because usually I'm teaching an audience this with no words. You just have to remember it all. So we've made it very easy for you this morning. So, verse da-da-da-da-da, under a promising sky. Here we go. Every step we take is on sacred ground here, under a promising. Someone or something lived and died all around here, under a it's a promising sky. We're walking. Promising sky. Promising sky. Promising sky. So we breathe out the past and breathe in tomorrow. Oh, today's just a moment's taste of joy and of sorrow. It's a promising sky. Promising sky. Promising sky. Promising sky. The ancestors' voices try to call us home. Oh, but the cries of the children won't leave us alone. Ooh, it's a promising sky. Promising sky. Promising sky. Promising sky. So we're caught between the earth and the heavens above. Oh, the best we can do is fill the space with love. Oh, it's a promising sky. Promising sky. Promising sky. Promising sky. You are an angel when you open your heart. Oh, to make a brand new start. Yes, it's a promising sky, promising sky, promising sky, promising sky. It's a promising sky, promising sky, promising sky, promising sky. It's yours and it's mine. Thank you. Nice. Beautiful. Beautiful. Shall I continue on with the next song here? Great. A few years ago, I got to be part of a weekend out in the Berkshire Mountains in Massachusetts, a place called the Rowe Conference Center that does a lot of retreats, spiritual retreats, and it was a weekend called Singing the Joys and Sorrows of Humanity. And I was there with two other musicians, Richie Havens and Peter Rowan, and about 60 people. And we all just dug in for 2 days, and people could go with whatever musician they chose. And we sang and ate and wept and laughed and sang and ate and wept and laughed, repeat. And it was just, people were just so present. It was so powerful that I ended up writing 2 songs over the course of that weekend. And this is one of them. The Berkshires are such beautiful, it's old land. You know, they're smaller hills. They've been there a long, long time. And that's where this song came from. There's a little bit of a repetition in each verse. It changes a little. But the verse always ends with hope lives in these quiet hills. There is darkness in these hills. I'm not afraid. There is darkness in these hills. I am not afraid. There is darkness in these hills. Though some may tremble, I am still. Hope lives in these quiet hills. Sing that line with me. Hope lives in these quiet hills. There is darkness in the land. I seek the taste of hope. There is darkness in the land. I seek the taste of hope. There is darkness in the land with sorrows more than we can stand. Here we go. Hope lives in these quiet hills. Ooh. There is darkness in my heart. The taste of hope is sweet. There is darkness in my heart. The taste of hope is sweet. There is darkness in my heart, and I can feel the healing start. Hope lives in these quiet hills. There is darkness in these hills. I'm
I'm going to start the friendship baskets around. In here you'll find offering envelopes and also cards where you might add a prayer or concern that you have, which you can drop in the offering plate in a little bit. And also on the back of that card, there's a place if you're a visitor and would like to leave your contact information. We'd be happy to be in touch with you over the course of the week. And there are also name tags. If you'd like to put on a name tag, we'd love to have you do that. So again, welcome, and again, we're delighted to have Claudia here. Claudia actually came to us through James Schattauer. They knew each other when they were living in Minnesota, and Claudia was out here for a house concert, and James got in touch with us and said she was available, and we got this to work out. So we're delighted for these connections that we have that go across the country. As we gather in community, we bring with us all the things that we're thinking about, that we're concerned about, the people that we're praying for, the people that we love, the situations that are on our hearts and minds. So this is just a little bit of time for us to name some of those people or places or things that we want to bring with us into this hour of contemplation and prayer and celebration. So who's on your mind? What's on your mind this morning that we need to pray for? Refugees. Mm-hmm.
Double refugees.
Mm-hmm. Marty.
My mother, Augusta.
Mm-hmm.
People being sent out of their country, exiled.
Mm-hmm.
Very small island.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
A personal friend.
Mm-hmm.
Fire victims in this heat.
Mm-hmm. The fire victims.
Camp Cas folks.
Yes, people at Camp Cas. Will you pray with me, please? Dear God, the world is big, and we hear all about it. We take it in, and sometimes it's too heavy for our hearts. We have friends and loved ones who may be in crisis, or they may be in celebration and joy. In any case, we hold all of these people, all of these places, all of these ones that we've named, and all of the ones that are even too deep in our hearts to name. We know that you hear our prayers and that you hold them in your greatness so that we don't have to hold them alone. We give you thanks for your presence. We give you thanks for this day. We give thanks for this community. We give thanks for the gift of music and story. We give you thanks and praise. Amen. And as we are in community, I invite you to rise as you're able and to offer each other a sign of peace and welcome. We have a couple of children here, but if there are some other people who would like to populate the children's rug over here, the chairs, please come and join us, if you will. Come down and have a seat, because Claudia has a special song for y'all.
Right where you are, too. Well, I was in your lovely restroom earlier, and there are all the little cans in there talking about what to go in which can. Finally, it comes down to if you can't reuse it or recycle it, put it in here. But it's like last. So I wanted to do a little song this morning. It was written by a friend of mine named Paul Kaplan, and Paul had a Yiddish grandfather who would tell him this folk tale as he was growing up that he remembered when he got older and became a songwriter. So he took this folk tale and he worked it into this song about maybe you've done this yourself. If you've ever slept under a quilt, like your grandmother's quilt or something, they were usually made out of leftover clothes that weren't in good enough shape to wear anymore, but they were too beautiful to just throw away. So they turned into something else. That's the beauty of it. So this song has a little refrain at the end of each verse, and you'll figure it out in a hurry. It's called "I Had an Old Coat." Oh, and there's a thing in the middle actually too that goes, "I had an old coat, but the coat got torn. What'll I do?" And you sing, "What'll I do?" Had an old coat, but the coat got torn. What'll I do? What'll I do? Had an old coat, but the coat got torn, so I cut it down and a jacket was born. And then we're all gonna sing. And I'll sing every day of my life. Try that. And I'll sing every day of my life. Let's see what happens next. When those threads were getting thin, what'll I do? When those threads were getting thin, what'll I do? When those threads were getting thin, I called it a shirt and I tucked it in. And I'll sing every day of my life. Well, sleeves wore out to the east and the west. What'll I do? The sleeves wore out to the east and the west. What'll I do? The sleeves wore out to the east and the west. So I cut and I sewed till I had me a vest. And I'll sing every day of my life. Well, I stained that vest with cherry pie. What'll I do? I stained that vest with cherry pie. What'll I do? I stained that vest with cherry pie. So I snipped and I stitched till I had me a tie. And I'll sing every day of my life. When that tie was looking lean, what'll I do? Getting smaller. When that tie was looking lean, what'll I do? When that tie was looking lean, I made a patch for my old blue jeans, and I'll sing every day of my life. Whoa. When that patch was next to nothing, what'll I do? When that patch was next to nothing, what'll I do? When that patch was next to nothing, I rolled it up into a button, and I'll sing every day of my life. Not much left now, is there? When that button was almost gone, what'll I do? When that button was almost gone, what'll I do? When that button was almost gone, with what was left I made this song, which I'll sing every day of my life. Yes, I'll sing every day of my life. I will sing every day of my life. Thank you. Thank you.
Hear these words from Psalm 8. This is the version from the Message. God, brilliant Lord, yours is a household name. Nursing infants gurgle choruses about you. toddlers shout the songs that drown out enemy talk and silence atheist babble. I look up at your macro skies, dark and enormous, your handmade sky jewelry, moon and stars mounted in their settings. Then I look at my micro self and I wonder, why do you bother with us? Why take a second look our way? Yet we've so narrowly missed being gods, bright with Eden's dawn light. You put us in charge of your handcrafted world, repeated to us your Genesis charge, made us lords of sheep and cattle, even animals out in the wild, birds flying and fish swimming, whales singing in the ocean deeps. God, brilliant Lord, your name echoes around the world.
When I travel around, I pay attention. I try to be mindful, and like when I'm in churches, I always like to read the bulletin boards and see what people have on their refrigerators. For instance, I find great things on people's refrigerators. And I was at a friend's house. I was doing another house concert, and in my warm-up room, this was on the wall, and I wanted to share it with you this morning. It's written by Ansel Adams, the wonderful photographer of nature in its grandeur. And he says, I believe in growing things and in the things which have grown and died magnificently. I believe in people and in the simple aspects of human life and in the relation of each of us to nature. I believe we must be free, both in spirit and society, that we must build strength into ourselves, affirming the enormous beauty of the world and acquiring the confidence to see and to express our vision. So he was a person who spent so much time in nature, just being out there and by himself for the most part. And he obviously had a relationship with nature. I had the good fortune to grow up in a small town and spent a lot of my childhood just wandering around fields and spending hours doing I can't even tell you what, but in nature. And I live in the city now, but I lived on an island in the middle of Lake Michigan for 10 years. So I always gravitate back toward being in a wilder place. It's always meant a lot to me. Even as a child, the Sundays that I didn't make it to church, it didn't matter. I would sit on my porch and sing and pray to the trees for the hour I would have been in church, and that was just fine with me. And I'm reading a book right now called The Spell of the Sensuous by David Abram, and I'm just in the very beginning, but he talks about the premise of his book is the fact that what makes us human is being in connection with nature. Like he says in connection, and he uses the word in conviviality with nature, is that what makes us human is our relationship to non-human things. And we live lives now that are so based on either just interacting with each other or with the things we've made, the technology, and that it can be a dangerous thing because we fall out of that relationship. We become isolated. And so a weekend like this weekend that so many of your congregants are getting to go to I see as a very healing thing, and always has been for me. There's a place in northern Michigan, the Upper Peninsula. How many of you have ever been to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan? Fair number. And it's like a world unto itself, even though it's part of Michigan. It's absolutely bleak and beautiful. And I've always been attracted to this beautiful bleakness up there. And when you go up there, it's like artifice falls away, and you just have to be with yourself in the moment. No distractions, and that's the point I'm talking about, where you sort of come back into yourself through this kind of communion with what's around you that isn't of you in the physical form, but is totally of you in the spiritual way. And so I wanted to play a song that was inspired by the Upper Peninsula. I've done so many trips across there in all kinds of weather. It can be really scary in a blizzard, and sometimes just absolutely jewel-like and gorgeous. And so I was on this drive, and images just kind of began pouring in. And I just kind of took notes. I pulled over and took some notes to get the beginnings of this song. So it's my homage to not only the Upper Peninsula, but wilderness, and not only how it exists in relation to how we can, use it, but just that it exists, and in hopes that it continues to exist and doesn't get too civilized like us. This is called Out Here. There's a quote from Wendell Berry that I just love. He says, "It is perhaps when we no longer know which way to go that our real journey has begun. The mind that is not baffled is not employed. The impeded stream is the one that sings." Out here, the trees keep their secrets, and the stars look the other way. Out here, So when I was about 18 or 19, I had moved to Chicago and started being a full-time musician. And I met some people who were doing a fundraiser to take some kids up on a canoe trip in this area I had never heard of before, called the Quetico Wilderness Area. It's just over the Minnesota border into Ontario. And I played happily at this fundraiser and then ended up going out as a tenderfoot counselor on my first canoe trip, which was for a week. And I'd spent time in fields, but never actually out in the wilderness. And normally, this wilderness program that took these kids out would come sort of to Chicago suburban schools, do their program. The kids would raise money to do the trip. This fundraiser was for some inner city Native American kids to go on this canoe trip. So that was the trip I was on. So I don't think the kids ever even got to see the video on what it was going to be like up at Quetico. So we all got up there, and they're doing the orientation, and these kids, I think, thought they were going to a resort. They're kind of looking around going, where's the pool? Where are the tennis courts? And you want us to carry what that weighs what on our backs and paddle what? And so we went on, we started out on this trip in a very hostile environment, shall we say. I thought, well, I'm never going back here again. It was just almost toxic. It was so hostile at first. And we just did the best you can. You're out there for a week, and you're out there no matter what the weather. If it rains, you can't go out of the rain. You're just in the rain. You just kind of have to be there. Sure enough, you don't call them days of the week on a canoe trip because you would lose track. You just kind of number. I think it was day 3. No, day 4. It took about 3 solid days for something to shift. And I'm paddling along on day 4, and all of a sudden, you could see the bodies of these kids just go, in the canoes, just kind of go, sprawling, like this. And you could see that suddenly they had arrived. They had arrived, and for the rest of the trip, were just in a complete state of wonder. And the day, we were paddling back in, and they would always play bagpipe music for the kids coming in from the canoe trips. And these kids are weeping. They'd probably never heard bagpipe music in their lives either, growing up in inner city Chicago. And so between the wilderness and the bagpipes, their lives were forever changed. And so was I. I came back from that trip. I went back to Chicago and had one more gig that I'd scheduled that summer. I canceled all the rest of my work and went back up to that island and just sang for the groups of kids coming out, in and out, and getting out on a couple more trips. And it's that feeling I had felt this new power in my body, just the power of paddling that canoe, of moving around under your own steam and having to sort of adjust to the pace of nature and that idea that you can't go in out of the weather, that you're part of it. You're part of it. You're not isolated from it. You can't check in and out. You're just in there. So shortly after that, I was up on the shores of Lake Superior, paddling around with a friend of mine just offshore, and another, a magnificent lake that's actually an inland ocean, which I had never really spent any time on as an adult. We'd gone there when I was a kid. So 2 things I want to do here. A piece that was written during that time tied in with a little piece that I first heard up at Quetico on a Bruce Coburn album a couple years before. And then I want to start out here with a voice. It was like a voice that I heard coming out of Lake Superior, and that I've always remembered. And I call this Lake Superior Lament. Oh, hey, upturned paddle guides liquid to our dry mouths. Water within us, water surrounds us. A great mystery, are we coming dry at all? Replenish, replenish, all must be replenished. The water within and without, all that fills us, all that surrounds us. The great whistling pines, the tenacious beaver, the ancient loon. The rush of the young eagle's wings as it dips low over our canoe. Replenish the eyes bathed in this delicate solitude, this trembling eternity called back in mid-sweep, only to be assessed by greed-parched eyes. Replenish each shriveled heart, which has its moments only at events set aside for its song, yet cannot fly, for the connection between a rock and the human body, the heron's wing, and the hope in our souls. We go on, we go on. The upturned paddle guides liquid to our dry mouths. We will grow dry again, perhaps leap into the water. Small, symbolic celebration of a great and endless task, which gracefully undertaken might allow us all to go on and on and on. Every day flashes like a spray of blue jays. A golden crown upon each one, like an eagle seen against the sun. I have some words up on the screen. A Sufi prayer. I'd like to conclude this by reading that together. Look to this day, for it is life, the very life of life. In its brief course lie all the verities and realities of your existence, the bliss of growth, the glory of action, the splendor of beauty. For yesterday is but a dream, and tomorrow is only a vision. But today, well lived, makes every yesterday a dream of happiness, and every tomorrow a vision of hope. Look well, therefore, to this day. Such is the salutation of the dawn. Blessings.
Thank you so much, Claudia. It's beautiful. I'd like to invite 5 people to come help me serve communion this morning, so I won't be alone at the table. Are there 5 people who would be willing to help out? Come on up. This table is an open table. All are welcome to this table this morning because this is the place where we get our sustenance, we get our health, we get our hope, we get all that we need just in this simple meal. So repeat after me, if you will, these words. Jesus gathered with his friends.
Jesus gathered with his friends.
He took the bread and he broke it.
He took the bread and he broke it.
And he blessed it,
And he blessed it.
saying, "This is my body,
This is my body,
broken for you.
broken for you.
Each time you eat it,
Each time you eat it,
remember me
remember me
and all that we have done together."
and all that we have done together.
And he took the cup
He took the cup
and he blessed it.
and he blessed it.
And he said, "This is my spirit,
This is my spirit,
poured out for you.
poured out for you.
Every time you drink from this cup, remember me and all that we have done together.
and all that we have done together.
May God bless this meal, which is for the good of us and for all. You can say that.
Can't remember.
That was kind of a long one. And you guys can go back there, and maybe you can go back here, and you can come serve with me. Let's just go right here. Come, for all things are ready. And will you join me, please, in the Jesus prayer? Lord Jesus Christ, you are the light of the world. Fill my mind with your peace, my heart with your love, my body with your light. Amen. And I'm going to start the baskets around. This is an opportunity for us to give back for all that we've been given. That the gifts may be used for the best good of the entire world. A few announcements this morning. Of course, the cafe and the cellar thrift shop are open. You'll want to save the dates. Sunday, October 18th, we'll have flu shots from 10 to 12:30. And then also a save the date for early in February when the Women's Voices Retreat will be held in Mill Valley. Next Sunday will be a very special Sunday. We're going to be celebrating young adult ministry and Kit Novotny and her work. She is going to be installed at 3 p.m. in the afternoon, but we're going to use both of the services to celebrate the work, this very important part of our mission and our work. And David Rui was the senior pastor at Plymouth Church in Des Moines, where Kit was before she came here. And David is also a longtime colleague of Pat DeYoung's and has been active in the UCC, so it'll be a delight to hear him preach both at 9 and 11. At 10 a.m., there's going to be a special learning hour on the Pope's encyclical on the environment. This is sponsored by the Green Team, and they're going to be sharing parts of that document for us to all learn a little bit more about it. I'm sure you've all read it. And if you haven't, you'll be reading it and studying it this week, so you'll be all ready. And at 12:30, there's going to be a church council meeting. The purpose of having it on a Sunday is so that people who are at church might just come and see what a church council meeting looks like. It's going to happen here in the large assembly, and there's going to be food, which there usually isn't at a church council meeting, so that's what makes it particularly special. But if you're interested in just how the church does its business and who's doing its business, you'll want to come and spend some time after church. So you can pretty much, plan to be here at 8:30 or 9. You'll be done about 4:30, and you will be well-churched. We hold these people in our prayers as a community. Continued prayers for Marie-Claire Smith and her parents, Karen and Neil, as Marie-Claire continues to recover in Altabates, and cards are welcome. Also, we continue to pray for Joy Apra and Jeanette Snyder, who remain in hospice. So could we just take a moment of silence as we hold these people in prayer? May God be with us and with them. Amen. And we also bless our offerings, which ended up somewhere. They're over there. We'll bless them from afar for all these good gifts and all that we have to give and all that we've received. Amen. And another song.
This is a beautiful room for singing, isn't it? Yeah. We're going to take advantage of it, and with you joining me again. Another song just about sort of, this is all we have, right? Right here, right now. While I live, while I live, while I live, I will love, sing. While I live, while I live, while I live, I will love, now we're loving. While I love, sing it out. While I love, I will sing, I will. Oh, and while I sing, and while I sing, I will hear, come on now. While I hear, I will know. Oh yes, and while I know, I will feel. Oh, and while I feel, I will dance. Ooh, and while I dance, I will laugh. And while I laugh, oh, while I laugh, I will live. Oh, yes, and while I live, and while I live, I will love once more with the living. And while I live, and while I live, I will love. I will love. All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Claudia, for coming and sharing your gifts and your wisdom, and the wisdom in your words and the wisdom in your songs. What a delight. One more round of applause for Claudia.
Thank you. Bless you.
And with the sounds of celebration, with the sounds of joy, with the sounds of lament still ringing through our bodies, may you go out into the world in peace, knowing that God is with you and with all. Amen. Oh, also don't forget the CDs over here on the table, and I'm sure Claudia will be glad to chat and answer any questions you might have about those.
To be here.
Yeah.